Well, good morning, YouTube, and welcome back to Retired for Life. The little bit of snow we got is almost gone. So let's get into the shop, and we've got one little job to take care of today. Well, we have many little jobs to take care of, but one on the top of the list. So as you saw from the last video, my red squirrel visitors have returned. I need to do something a little more robust to keep the stinkers out. So we'll have to figure out what that's going to be. So most of the jobs that involves me bringing equipment in here into the shop is pretty much done. So I've gone ahead and finished putting things out in a manner where it's going to be a little easier to use all the equipment, and I don't have to keep pulling things out and putting stuff away. So I've got my planer, my table saw, my router table, I've got my grinder and power sander under there, my new bandsaw, and over there is the little, what do you call these? So everything is pretty much set up. I've got one more piece of equipment that I've got to get in here. A friend of mine has given me a reciprocating sander, which is a sander that's got a little drum on it that spins and goes up and down for doing little sanding jobs. It looks like a nice little piece of equipment. Fairly inexpensive one from Canadian Tire, but I think it will be a nice little asset to the shop. So I've got to pick that up and find a spot to set it in here as well, as I do have a couple of little crafty jobs that I want to get started on. That will be fun to work on, and that little sander will be very handy for those jobs. All right, let's see if we can find something to take care of those damn red squirrels. All right, guys, so this is plan B. I've got a number of these left over from the observatory. They used to sit on top of the runners that the roof ran out on, but since I don't need that anymore, I'm going to try cutting these up and flattening them out and put them up in place over top of the boards that are now up there, partially blocking the squirrel hotel. So hopefully I can get these to fit up there. I do have a bunch of them. I've got 8 of them. So I've got more than enough material to cover those whole areas there where they're getting in. So we'll flatten these out and get them cut to length. Actually, I think I'll cut them to length first, then flatten them out, a little easier to work with when they're shorter, and we'll see what we can do with them. Let's see if we can straighten this. Well, guys, let's have a little closer look at what our friends, the red squirrels, have already done here. Well, it's only been a week, and you can see where they've already chewed through there. And they're working on that one up there. So hopefully our sheet metal will put a stop to that. All right, let's get our first 4 sheets in. Now you can see the sheet on the other side here, like this side is fine, but when I put in this one, I've got to cut around for this stud. All right, let's get these first 4 sheets in place. All right, there's sheet 1. All right, 2 more to go, and then we'll start cutting the other 4. Well, there we go. All my cladding is in place. Everything is so irregular here. Nothing is square, but we got everything blocked up. Let's see him get through that, although I shouldn't give him a challenge. Okay, we'll clean up and get on to the next job. So our little project for today is to do something about my DeWalt planer. Now, I have been using it in the workmate when I need it, so I can pick it up off the floor and clamp it into the workmate on this stud that's on the bottom of this platform. But that is awkward. This thing is really heavy, and I use the workmate a lot ever since I repaired it by replacing the top boards here. I use it every time I'm in the shop. It's always being used. So that means that I always have to take this thing off of the workmate whenever I've had it up using it, and I really don't like doing that. So what I'm going to do is build a little stand to put this on. So that means taking the workmate off this platform. I'll reuse this piece of plywood and then put some legs underneath it. So what I want to do is target for making it the same height, or as close to it as I can get, as the table saw. That way I can use the table saw as a support, and I can use the roller stands that I use on the table saw without having to change the height for them on this when I'm doing longer boards. So we'll get started on that, get this apart, and then start figuring out how we're going to make the stand for it. So one of the things I want to do with this stand is put the legs at 10 degrees. But when I do that, I'm actually losing height. So I want to get an idea of how much height I lose so I can add that into my calculation for the actual height for the stand. So I have got a board here, just a scrap piece that I used and cut a couple of 10 degrees angles on it. So I've got a board that's 19.5 inches, and it looks like I've got 18 7/8 in height, which means I lose 5/8 of an inch for my height when using 10 degrees. So we'll have to remember to add in 5/8 of an inch to my height for my 2x4 legs. We'll see if that works. All right, let's see if this makes sense here. So I have got a piece of 1/2 inch plywood on there, plus the level of the infeed for the planer is 3 inches. And then I've got the thickness of my 2x4s, which is 1 7/8. And then I need to add back 5/8 of an inch for what I lose from the angle to end up at my target height of 36 3/4. So figuring out the height of this is a little bit complicated. So I've got my overall height of 36 3/4 inches. Now, to make that work, I need to subtract the 1/2 inch for the piece of plywood that I'm putting on top of the stand, and then I also need to subtract the 3 inches, which is the height of the infeed from the bottom of the planer. And then I need to subtract 1 7/8, which is the thickness of my 2x4s. And then I need to add back 5/8, which is what I lose from adding the 10 degrees onto that. Now I'll have to double check that, but that looks like it comes out to 31 1/4 inches. Nope, I'm wrong on that. It's 31 7/8. So we'll start there, and hopefully that works. If it doesn't, I can take it back and remove or add on if I need to. So let's start cutting our 2x4 legs, and we'll see how that goes. So my math for my leg lengths was faulty. I made the mistake of assuming the loss from the 10-degree angle was going to be the same for the length. But actually, of course, if I would have thought it through a little more carefully, the higher you go, the greater your loss is on your angle. So it ends up that I'm going to be pretty much exactly a 1/2 inch short for my tabletop. And that's fine. I can deal with that quite easily. I've got 1/2 inch material, so all I have to do is complete the stand and then put a 1/2 inch spacer just underneath my plywood, and that will get me my height. Actually, what I think I'll do is put that 1/2 inch spacer underneath the planer. That way I can skim down whatever that spacer is to really get it very, very close to the same height of the table. So we'll call that a plus, even though it was a mistake. It will work to my advantage. All right, so we'll get these assembled and start looking at getting it all fastened to the plywood top. One of the things I really like about my DeWalt miter saw here is the XPS system on it, which stands for cross-cut positioning system. Now at first I thought this is going to be kind of silly. I thought maybe it was lasers or something, but it's not. There's an LED light up in here, and what it works off of is a shadow, which is amazingly accurate. So I've got a little line right here. As I bring the blade down, it casts a shadow on my wood. So I can move that line up to either side of this shadow and get a very accurate cut. As long as my line is accurate, my cut is going to be really accurate. And I quite like that with this saw. It really works well. At first, as I say, I thought it was a little hokey, but it's not. It does a wonderful job. So because I want to reuse this top, I've run into a small problem with it. My bolts going down through here, 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 and here are going to interfere with the 2x4s underneath by just a little bit. So I'm going to cut a little notch in the 2x4s to allow clearance for my screws to go through. So I don't want to go right through, so I'm not going to use a saw. So I think I'm just going to try freehanding this with the router to notch them out, oh, maybe about 3/4 of the way along. That should be more than enough. Well, there we go. Let's sit it on the floor and see how well it sits. All right, I'm very pleased with that. That really sits well. That turned out really good. So let's do a little measuring now to the top of the table saw table. So I know I've got 3 inches from the bottom of the planer to the planer's infeed platform. So let's see what we have here. I've got 3.5 inches. So all I need is a 1/2 inch piece in there and we're good to go. Alright guys, there we go. So I'm quite pleased with this. I did have to make one last minute change. The spacers that I'm going to put under the feet here were going to make my bolts too short. So my spacers are now underneath my plywood. So that worked out just fine. So this is really rigid, very level, and I can still move it out of the way without any difficulty because it is light enough. So again, that's got this all set, ready to go anytime I need it. And that's my goal, is to have this shop set up to be as functional as possible. So to that end, the next job is to clean up the mess I made. All right, let's get that done and we'll see what happens tomorrow. Okay guys, that's going to be it for today's video. We're pretty much set up in the shop here so we can actually start building stuff very soon. I'm going to work on a board here for a very simple little project of a planter for a present for a neighbor. So we'll see if we can get that underway and done before Christmas. So thanks very much for watching guys, and we'll see you out on the trails the next time.